Evening, guys. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and we're out here again tonight at the Pathfinder Forge and Tool Forging Shop. What I thought we'd do is we'd pick up another small project that's an easy do-it-yourself that you can do with less complicated tools than what we have here in the Forge. And we're going to discuss as we go substitute tools that you could use that you may have around your small shop already, and how to make this tool that will allow you to be more self-reliant because it's a tool that you can use for other projects. So we're using tools to make tools to use to make other things. And so, not to keep anything a secret in this video, we're going to make what's called a pricking iron. Now, pricking iron is a tool that's used for punching leather in uniform holes for saddle stitching or whip stitching or however you're going to stitch your leather. But for saddle stitching, it works really, really well. And so we're going to make a pricking iron today out of fall off material that we've got out here in the shop. We just need some hexagon stock, and I think we'll use 5/16 for this. If you don't have hexagon stock, you could probably use an old screwdriver, and you'll see what I mean by that in a few minutes to do this with, although it may be more difficult to work with that screwdriver in the beginning without a lot of heat and annealing. What that means is heating that metal up to a critical temperature like non-magnetic, because it'll be a tool steel, and then letting it cool down naturally in something that's insulated to let it anneal and become softer again so that you can work with it, because we're going to cut this material as well. So something that is a cold rolled steel like this hexagon stock will work great for that. And after we heat treat it, it will be plenty hard enough to punch holes in leather and last for a good long time for no more than it's going to cost us to make it. Like I said, I'm going to use a scrap piece of fall off for this. But even if I had to buy a 3-foot section of this from Alro Steel or Online Metals or something like this, it would probably cost me $3 or $4 for a piece long enough to make several tools from. So those are just a couple places that you can look if you're looking for raw steel to make projects in your shop as well. So stay with me and we'll get started. Okay, so I've got a piece of 4-inch 5/16 hexagon stock here that we're going to use to make this tool with. So the first thing I'm going to do is take it over here to the belt sander. I'm just going to kind of dress it up and make sure that it's cut at a 90-degree angle and things like that, because sometimes chop saws, band saws don't cut exactly 90 degrees. And I want everything to be kind of flush and even before I start. But 4 inches is really plenty long enough for this tool. We're going to draw it out a little bit anyway. It's going to make it a little bit longer. It might be like 4 1/4 when we're done. But 4 inches is plenty for a small tool that we're going to use for leather work. All right, let's go knock this thing down in the sander real quick, and then we'll start the forging process. Okay, that's going to be close enough to get us started. I just beveled the ends real quick, just so they weren't sharp, and just made everything 90 degrees here and here. Now we're going to heat this dude up. Okay, so we're going to take this piece of metal and we're going to use the rounding side of a hammer to fishtail it out. So we've got a piece of metal that's like this, and we want to make it like this. That's going to fan that out and give us a place that we can put those cutting tines for the leather, just like this, okay? So that's the first step. Whatever we do to one side, we want to do to the other, because the anvil is the other side of your hammer. But you're hammering at an angle here because you're coming down on top of it here against a flat here. So we're going to turn it over and get the other side. Turn it over. Draw everything out about the same. We can dress this up on the grinder when we're done. We're just trying to get our flare to be fairly even. Now, like I said in the last video, you could easily use an acetylene torch or something like that to do this. You didn't have a forge. And now we're just trying to make sure that we've got everything even down the middle. We've got an even splay here. Then we're going to cool this down and take it to the grinder and do some initial work on it to see where we want to cut our teeth at. Okay, so now we've got our tool, we've got this rounded edge here. We want to make that flat. So now we're going to take our grinder and give this an initial shaping so that we can work with that. So I'm just looking for a flat grind across the front, and I'm just going to square up the sides. And get everything evened up just like that. And that's going to be my starting point. Okay, the next step in this is to figure out how many teeth we want to cut into this, or how many cutting tines we want. And so I'm going to use a marker, and I'm going to say that that is going to be one tine, and that is going to be one tine. That's going to be a tine, and that's going to be a tine. And so with that being the case, the only thing I need to do is remove everything that's not tine with a saw or some type of cutting implement like a grinding wheel. So in my case, I'm going to use a bandsaw to cut these teeth, or cut these gaps where the teeth are, okay? So I'm going to put a clamp on the trigger of this thing to keep it turned on. And I'm going to come in here. And I'm just going to edge this over a little bit at a time. And I'm basically just using the width of the kerf of the saw to dictate the spacing. Kind of like this. Okay, at this point, what I'm really worried about is I want to make sure that these spaces are the same depth and about the same width. And now I can go over here to the grinder and start working with this blade and make these actual teeth for cutting leather. Now, some of the stuff that I do is a little unconventional and it's a little bit tedious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here to clean these up, and I'm going to turn this sander on, and I'm going to push my way between the teeth so that only one side of the sanding belt obviously is grinding. So I use that side that's grinding to clean anything up in here to get these teeth all the same width. And also to bevel the teeth. And you'll see what I'm talking about with that in just a minute. There's two of the teeth that are getting close to what I want right here. Now I got to work on the other two. Trying to get an even amount of space in between these teeth and have all of these prickers the same length. And I pretty much got that. Now, I need to go back here and I need to sharpen this thing down so that these are like chisels. I'm going to do that on the back side and the plaque. Okay, well, now we're down to this, and it's not perfect by any means, but it's not horrible bad either. We got one tine that might be a little deeper here, but you've got 4 sharp tines there. The thickness is the same all the way across, and it's going to punch even holes, and that's really what it's all about. So we can mess around trying to dress this up a little bit more, and probably end up goofing the thing up. Or we can just come by in here with some hand filing or hand sanding and do a much more finer job if that's what we're trying to get to. But for me, I want something that's functional. It doesn't have to be necessarily absolutely perfect because it is handmade. And this is pretty close. I may hit it one more time right here and then we're gonna take over. We're gonna heat treat it. Stay with me. Okay, moment of truth. Now, what we want this thing to do for us is we want to be able to decide where our stitch line is going to be on a piece of leather. So we'll just put a pencil line across there and say that's where our stitches are going to be. And then we need a backer, and in this case I just got some wood here. That'll be fine. And then we're going to take a mallet, a leather mallet, or any mallet that we have, and we're going to line this up and punch it down. We'll take the last one and we'll put it in the last hole to make sure our spacing is the same. And we'll stay on the line that we drew, just like this. And continue down, punching 3 holes every time in an exact line with the same spacing. And what that's going to do for us is that's going to give us a nice even stitching when we go to saddle stitch the leather. So we've got a nice even line of holes on here that are already punched through both sides of the leather. So if we're saddle stitching in a stitching pony, the needles will run through there very easily. Because it's slotted, you can pass the needles between each other when you're doing a saddle stitch. And that works really good if you're doing a blind stitch. Okay guys, so that was just a quick and easy demonstration on how to make a quick leather tool called the pricking iron. And if you don't have all those fancy tools that I have here in my shop, like I said, it's not that difficult to use something like the side of an angle grinder or a side of a bench grinder to do that initial facing grind. Any hacksaw or set of files will drive these slots through the pricking iron. That's not a problem at all. And then you can use hand files or hand sanding to get your iron the way you want it and get those each individual tine exactly like you want it. And then you can heat treat it simply enough and heat it up simply enough for the forging process with something like a MAP gas torch or an acetylene torch on steel like this. But a tool like this, it's not made out of tool steel, it's still going to last you for a good long time if you care for the tool and you make sure you've got a good backer behind your leather that you're punching through. It's going to take a long time to ruin something like this. Of what it costs you and the time it takes to make it, you can just make another one. All right, guys, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School, and I appreciate you joining me out here tonight for a quick video in our do-it-yourself blacksmithing series on how to make a pricking iron. Make sure that you hit that notification bell. Make sure that you're subscribed to my channel, and be sure to go down and check the links below in the description box for my Amazon store as well as my online store at selfrelianceoutfitters.com. And I appreciate your views. Thanks, guys.